All right, hello everyone, and just waiting till my special guest gets loaded. I want to see if anything happens with my special guest. Oh, there she is. All right, all right. So hello everyone. This is it's me, GetSelious, and usually I know on Sundays I would play a point-and-click adventure game. This time around, but no, this time around I'll be talking about a game I'm looking forward to. If it, if you guys help, should get fully published and being seen. So right now I'm joined by Liliana Young. Hello, Liliana. Can you hear me?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I can.
All right. Sorry, I was just doing a quick intro. Yeah. So if you could introduce yourself to the chat.
Hi, I'm Liliana Young. I am the co-writer and creative consultant and trailer editor and community lead for Absinthia,
Yep.
uh, and other miscellaneous things for the general Team Bewitched group.
Yep. And we're talking about this is the latest project you guys are working on. You guys, before the game has been launched, you've been advertising on social media, and you have a demo and that's available now. We'll be playing, a little after we discuss more about the game and talk about you. As of today, we're about 8,236 as of today, which is almost at a halfway point with 23 days ago. That's good. That's good for right now. And we really could use you guys to support this game. So, before we start, let's play the trailer and show what this game is about. Yes, Hackself, it is the Kickstarter to. Well, it's much more than a Yuri game, but I will let Ginal talk about that when the time comes. But yes, the one thing I do notice about this trailer is the pixel art is very beautiful, and the music is Chef's Kiss.
Yeah, I'll let the trailer finish out before I say too much.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's that. So yeah, thanks for joining chat, Hackself. Oopsie. And yeah, this is much more than a Yuri game. From my understanding, it has a wide array of LGBT cast, and I'll let Janelle talk more about that.
Yeah, so Josh, the project lead, the games director, Josh, has a history as a solo dev prior to Absinthia, uh, where he does have I guess, a pattern or a history of doing, I guess, what you can call Yuri or Sapphic centric stories. Um, and with Absinthia, uh, Josh already laid out some foundation in his initial write ups before I got involved, but I nudged him to kind of broaden things out. There was already the plan from the beginning that there would be not just cisgender gay characters, but also trans characters and a uh, what we call MLM relationship, men loving men, with the
Right.
character Jake and Thomas. Um, and after a couple of revisions, we ended up deciding that Sarah, the point of view character, was going to be asexual and aromantic. Um,
Ah.
she loves her friends, she loves her family, but she is very happy to not be partnered with anyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's the best way to describe that, at least in layman's term, would be arrow ace. If you haven't seen it already, I do recommend everyone check it out. Jaden Animations did an excellent video describing this for people who don't know that terminology and what it means. So I recommend people check that out. Have you seen or heard that video, Janelle?
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty good. I would call it an introduction to asexuality and aromanticality.
Yeah, it's a very good video to get like just the primers, and I think that's the
Uh-huh.
best to leave it as that. I guess to talk more about this game in particular, you've been on Team Bewitched since I believe what was the first game you worked on with them?
Well, Absinthia is the first game that I've been, from the ground up. I did give Josh some feedback on things after Night Bewitched Enhanced Edition had already been out for a little while. But it did result in Josh agreeing to make a few. I would say they were small-ish changes, but they still was something Josh ended up agreeing on. Made it a little bit better. Um, so I don't know. I don't really consider myself to have been part of Night Bewitched. Just for now, it's only Absinthia.
Okay, I see. It's a good to look at. That's a good way. That's a very very honest way to speak of that. I guess a question to ask of you is, this is probably there's very limiting space within it comes to the media when it comes to LGBT media, when it comes to particularly in this case video games. Do you have any experience playing other or getting interested in other LGBT media at the time, or this was something you were corely focused on, just making LGBT games?
Um, I think generally, at this point in my life, my primary interest is in media that has a focus on queer characters and queer relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right. That
uh,
no, that no, it's just fair to ask. The reason why is because it's like growing up in generally when you find something you like and you're unrepresented, you work really hard to try to find representation for it or to create the media to do so. Like for a lot of people who are this is just a tangent. A lot of people who are minorities, particularly I would say racial minorities, look to a lot of mediums to find themselves, to see themselves into that aren't the stereotypical as the cis hetero white leader, etc. Right? It's you're aware of this as well. So it's like you working on Cynthia, you assuming that you play and consume LGBT based content and games and things of that nature. I guess to be more clear, if the question is, have you played other games that are LGBT based? Have you had an interest in them? When did that start? Or you were just always a gamer from the gate, or something of that nature?
well, I've been a gamer, since I was, I don't know, 2 years old or something. And I'm 37 now, so I've been at this for a really long time. My interest in queer centric things didn't really start until I think I would say when I was around 31 or 32. which was I think it was around 30. I think I was about 32 when I came out as trans and began my transition. Um, and that that sparked my interest in, you know, getting more exposure to media that was more about people, more like me. There's, I think that there's really two kinds of queer media that exist. You've got queer media made by larger studios or publishers, which might incorporate subtextually queer characters and relationships, but those rarely. Well, hello, Elijah. I see you there.
Yep. Yep. I'll let you finish the question before I.
But
Yeah.
yeah, those are honestly they're kind of made to not be offensive to people who might not really want queer characters being upfront in their media. So it's like
It's more like a. I guess it's.
if
I guess the term would say would be like a. Like be like a coding per se. Be like it's a.
yeah, kind of
It's
like that.
yeah. It's a light touch, but not fully. Fully there. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. At the end of the day, I still appreciate that. Simply because it's still there. It's better than the. At least in a very negative sense, it's better than it not being there. You know. I don't know.
um,
In some
yeah,
degree, yeah.
I can agree to an extent. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have subtext than nothing, but there's also times when uh, I really just want something blatant and in my face.
Yes, I yeah. I
Like,
this, yeah.
I mean, a good example of this kind of like non-offensive queer media, I think, is the Tomb Raider 2013 reboot, uh,
Ah, yeah.
where like if you look just a little bit beyond the surface, you can tell that Laura and her gal pal Samantha are a couple, and it's in like Samantha has pet names for Laura that she doesn't have for anybody else, and like a lot of the game is it's divided into sections where Laura has to run off and save her different friends on this island, and for her other friends, Laura will say things like, "Oh, I hope my friend will be okay until I get there." But like when her friend Sam is in trouble, there's this huge tonal shift where Laura like literally starts screaming at the bad guys things like, "I will kill anybody who gets between me and Sam." And so I mean it's things like that it's like, okay, these two are not only friends.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some
It's just it's something. Yeah, yeah. No,
um
no. I totally understand that. I definitely. It's like the sad part is though. It's like unironically, like for modern mediums, that is considered the norm in some capacities. Like, God, I could name so many games where like, are they? Don't they? I mean, it makes Tumblr happy, get all the ships out, but it's like I definitely agree that a sense of a little more directness would be okay. And Elijah Black
yeah.
Moon, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, how you doing?
But then there's the other kind of queer media, which is, usually it's made by queer people. Not all of it, but usually it's made by queer people ourselves, and with a more of a focus on, this is the kind of story that we want to see ourselves. Um, and even though I'm not the director of Absinthia, and of course everything is ultimately up to Josh's discretion, but I would personally categorize Absinthia as being more in the by queer people for queer people category. Um, is even though Josh does have final approval, I mean he does generally take a lot of my writing uh, to heart in my writing suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
He agrees with a lot of the things that I point out to him. Um, you know, and it's not just my influence. Our composer Jazz Stewart, very talented composer, is a non-binary person of color. Our cover artist and I think she's going to be our cutscene artist too. Ray Stillwell is an Arrow Ace woman. Um, and so the core of us, among the core of us, most of us are queer, and there is, I think, an influence of some of the what I would describe as queer sensibilities that works its way into, regardless of whether or not, you know, Josh himself is the lead.
That's true, but to compliment you, and I do mean this quite heartfeltly. The fact that you're involved in this game in any capacity, putting your influence in the game, is really important for that, and I think that's a really big deal. You're in the room to have the conversation rather than just be, oh, I'll see you later, you know. And also, Sif Scott, thank you for stopping by. He said, plus due to media stigmatism, this kind of thing still makes it hard, where they likely give a vague ways to show representation. It's better to get out there with the LGBTQ plus representation. I agree with that. True, I do. The vagueness is very, as Janelle pointed out, can be very sketchy, especially in the Laura Croft Tomb Raider situation or in other things. I definitely agree with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I it does get frustrating sometimes.
Right.
You know, I mean, we're at. I mean, it's 2022, and we still tend to struggle. I mean, listen, there is nothing on earth, in my opinion, more mundane than a cisgender gay person. That is as run of the mill, average I feel as you can get within queer people.
Oh no,
And
it's
and we
oh sorry, not to cut you off. Go ahead.
yes, no, sorry, but we're still struggling to get just basic cis gay people to have like blatant representation beyond what I think are generally niche media. Um, I mean, sometimes I just want to see the gay people kiss each other and not, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh no, 100%. So yeah, so we're gonna pay an animation artist to get a full. I'm just kidding. No. But on a very serious note, no, I definitely understand that. It's in from my understanding and how I look at media, I feel like we as a society has taken like the most coded, the so safest coded term there is, and kind of stereotype it to the max. Like I do feel there are many types of people who are under the rainbow bridge. Like I'll just give a perfect example. There are gay people who are feminine. There are gay people who are masculine. There are trans people who are masculine and trans with feminine. We don't have to like box in the way, and this spectrum is pretty huge. I would rather focus on an individual having great talents than then fit some kind of character box, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is, I mean, that's the thing about queer people is, you know, we're as diverse as any other group that you can think of, and
Yeah.
there. I mean, there are commonalities that,
Obviously, this is a baseline, but
but
we should focus on like the individuality of the
yeah,
person rather than just make some caricature. Because how many times are we going to see? And I do mean this on TV. Nothing wrong with HBO. Like how many times can you see the feminine sassy gay type? How many times are going to see that? That gets a bit pedantic after sometimes.
yeah, definitely. Or there's very often only one or two stories that get told in mainstream media about queer people. And like with trans people, for example, we tend to see a focus on the trauma and the pain of a trans existence, but that's kind of exhausting because there's a lot more to it. I mean,
Oh,
yes, I've dealt with my share of traumas myself, but I genuinely love myself as who I am. I'm very happy. My life, by and large, is actually going really well. And there's infinitely more to my, identity as a trans person than just things are awkward, there's trauma, woe is me.
Yeah, no, and exactly. Even with the transmedia, that was a common trope in the late in the I said the late 90s 2000s, maybe in the graphic novel sphere. I can go into hours about that because I've noticed it, and I always scratch my head. It's like, are there other stories besides this archetype? But again, this is why I'm looking forward to Absinthia, because you flip a lot of archetypes differently. There's some characters who I just identify with, and I'll probably talk about when I play the demo. And I think it's pretty cool that you're working on this game, that you're working this game and putting your input, and I'm looking forward to see the final product. And the couple of things I want to scroll down and talk about the Kickstarter with you is that you are trying to put this on multi-platforms, as much platforms as you can.
Yes, which I think is something that is kind of a rarity. In multiple ways, I think Absinthia is a rarity in queer media. Like most queer centric video games are visual novels. I think about 95% of them are visual novels. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that you really only get like one kind of general experience. There's not really much in the way of like action adventure games or role playing games that have a decidedly queer centric design. Um, and there's very little, if anything, that I can think of on consoles that falls into that category.
Very,
Um,
very, very small, and even then, I would put it under the the indie sphere, and I would have to,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Generally, it's almost always something that comes from an indie studio, like Time Spinner, the Metroidvania Time Spinner, which
yeah.
is actually a very good game, but
Mm-hmm.
it is ragingly unapologetically queer in almost every conceivable way. And I personally love it. But like the only things that I ever really read about it was people complaining that it was too in your face. But I
Wait,
loved every moment of it. I think it's a genuinely good game.
no, it is. It is. I find my Metroidvania takes go from either it's too difficult or I give up. I have to use YouTube videos to find them. I also think Unsighted is an excellent game for the LGBTQ community. It's created by by trans creators. So if you guys want to look up more trans games, look into that. That's a good one as well. A game that I'll be streaming next week with Sif Scott, who's in chat. Hopefully he's free. Is a game called Techno Babylon, which features a trans femme as a important character to the story who helps you solve crimes.
Um, yeah, yeah. Unsighted is also on my list. I'll get to that eventually.
Yeah,
Scott, I don't think Otome games fall into the queer representation area. I could be mistaken, but the way it's been explained to me is that um, Otome games are generally designed pretty specifically for a hetero women audience.
there are some options in some Otome games so you can go for BL routes, but even then, it is more designed towards the as you put it out, the hetero female. Most of them are. I'm not saying all, but a significant portion of them are.
Right, right.
Right. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, but real quick, but on this subject, do you mind if I just give a quick shout out to a game dev?
go ahead, give all the shout outs you want.
Uh, my friend Unity is a longtime indie solo dev who makes JRPG style games that are pretty exclusively centered around sapphic women. And Unity herself she's openly gay, so it's
Could
very much a by queer people for queer people
Cool. Could you provide
Um,
me their Twitter handle so I could just drop it in chat? Because I'll do it right now. Everyone can see.
ooh, let me pull that up real quick. Sorry, I didn't have that prepared.
No problem. It's okay.
Um,
We got all the time. And thanks
okay,
again for everybody who's and thanks to everybody who's been sharing the stream out. I really appreciate all you guys doing that. For all those who are new to the channel, be sure to drop a follow. This month, I'll be focusing on, particularly my Sundays, I'll be focusing on LGBT content creators, LGBT content, and as we're doing right now, we're talking about LGBT. Politely want to call you a game dev, but you're much more than that because you have so many hats. So I would say an LGBT content creator for now, because I can't call because you made one game, but I'll get into that later. You worked on one game.
you'll find her at Unity RPG,
Okay.
and her
Let's
games are excellent. I really do highly recommend them.
let's see. This is them. Yep, she her. Okay, cool. Always oof. I've been used to referring to people as them if I don't know their gender. It's not a,
Yeah, there she is.
yeah, there she is. Yep, she put
Yep.
it right there in the bio. I appreciate that. So yeah, everyone give her a follow. Here's the Twitter right there. I'll definitely give her a check out on her recent games. That could be something for her to check out for this month because it's Pride Month. So yeah, definitely check out. But back to the thing at hand. As I gave a little preview, you recently did work on a game on your own, a small project. It's on Itch.co, I believe.
Yeah. It's been several months by now. But I made my own RPG Maker demo. Uh, it it was kind of inspired by some real life events, but also a way to. I gave myself a goal of like, what can I do in 2 weeks and knock something out. It's called Your Special Day, and it's admittedly it's very basic. There's no unique assets, no plugins to broaden the mechanics. It's just straight up out of the box RPG Maker. But um, it's about a couple of women that are friends, and it's one of them having a birthday, and the other one is for some reason acting pushy and weird, and uh, then they kind of have this heart to heart moment about things, and I would like to think that it's kind of cute, but I let other people decide for me on that one.
Well, it was your. What did you learn from working on your on that first project? Like, is there like because have you had game deving experience before that project or?
Um, no. I uh, I learned most of I think the ins and outs of mapping with RPG Maker. I got familiar with how events are designed and triggered, and um, I got there's not a ton of combat, but there is combat that bookends the demo, and
Mm-hmm.
I got familiar with what's involved in balancing that out. um, I think I got a good grasp on a lot of uh, just definitely all of the fundamentals of the current version of RPG Maker, and I think maybe a little bit more beyond that.
That's good. That's good to hear. And I guess to say is that um, so we're scrolling down the thing, and you learn from that. Is there anything that you liked about that the project you worked on that you would like to, not in this, in Absinthia, if you could, you like that you would like to put into a future project you're working on? Is there like something that says, I really like what I did in this particular level, or I did in this particular instance, and I want to move it to something else, like make a bigger concept of it?
Um, Well, I have been, admittedly very slowly, but I have been working on the design document and story outline for another solo project of my own. Well, maybe and I wouldn't really call it a solo project. I would call it a project that I am leading. Um, it's uh, if there's any one thing that I would say that I liked about what I did in my initial demo that I want to expand on, it's using a two character party for the entire story,
Ah,
which which I've been told is considered to be difficult to balance around for combat. Um, but I kind of look forward to the challenge of that, to be honest. And I, as a writer, I like the intimacy of focusing on two characters. Um, Not that I can't write more, but there's something that I just find about concentrating on two specific characters, and I mean there will be some other you know like supporting cast or something here and there, but primarily it's a two character story.
okay. If you're interested, and you probably have played it or you looked into it, there's a couple of RPGs or games I know that has a two-character mechanic system. The entirety of the Mario Luigi Superstar Saga games, all of them are two characters. You play Mario and Luigi, and it's an RPG, and they do two different things. They have two different stats. They have two different abilities. Like Luigi is a much more crit-based character, while Mario is based on luck and other things. They have unique combos. It's a little more actiony, but definitely you can make an RPG or at least any game with a two-character system. There's games like Ico where you use there's a main character and you use another character to help solve puzzles. The intimacy between two characters can be done pretty well, and I think it's totally doable. I think those games can be pretty fun. It's all about when I say the execution, and I think that's a big key factor of it.
Yeah, I'm actually taking some inspiration from a game called Haven. It's
Ah,
another. I think it's an indie dev
it's an
game,
indie
I
game. Yeah, yeah.
believe.
I know Haven. Yeah, I have seen Haven.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my girlfriend and I had been playing that for a little while. Um, yeah, and that's focused on two characters, and now it wasn't originally designed. It was originally only designed with a man and a woman
Mm-hmm.
lead, but it has since been expanded out where you can also choose to be two men or two women. Um, and I don't know what's different from one version to another. But I do know that I really do enjoy it, and there's things in it that I'm taking inspiration from.
Well, I know if Haven did that, and I personally, from gameplay aspect, I don't notice much of a difference. But I do appreciate them allowing that to be a thing because again, as we discussed earlier, identifying yourself in the game is really important. Identifying the media you like is important. And that's why I really appreciate Cynthia's existing. And I guess another thing I want to go back and talk about Cynthia is talk about the reward packages you guys are giving out when people get the game. So a minimum of $15 will get you a copy of the game for the platform you're choosing. Is that correct? Just looking from the reward system right here.
Yes. And I as far as I understand, if somebody is interested in buying Absinthia, then it's ultimately better for us if they buy it through the Kickstarter.
Mm.
Uh, my understanding, because not only does that contribute to the Kickstarter goal and help because like the more donations you have, the more likely the Kickstarter website is to um, more prominently display you, but we'll also end up getting a higher cut of the purchase than we would, I believe, through Steam.
Yeah, yeah. There is to be blunt about it. There are profit incentives and platform things you would have to pay when you use other platforms. There is like
Yeah.
some platforms take 30, 40, some take 20, some take 50. It's a lot of behind the scene things, and I am not more qualified to discuss it, but I am definitely aware of the incentives what platforms take when performing things. But yeah, so going over the awards, you get, if you guys support, you could donate any amount you want. It all helps towards the games, but if you want to own a copy of the game, 15 is the minimum. And yeah, personally, I'm probably gonna probably up, if I have a chance, maybe up myself to get $25 so I can get the music and the OSCs. I'm more, that's all I kind of would technically want, and that's about it. But there's a bunch of more cool stuff you can get if you put more money into the Kickstarter. I think $35 is probably that's the highest I could ever go. But since I already own the game, it'd be great. You get Knights Bewitched Enhanced Edition, which I'm assuming it's the Enhanced Edition, and you get Celestial Hearts. I believe Celestial Hearts is the game that was completed after Knights Bewitched 2, if I'm correct on that.
Right. Yeah. It was chronologically, it's Night Bewitched 2, Celestial Hearts, and then Absinthia.
Yep. Yep, and you can find out more and more what you offer from this game. I really do recommend people giving this game a look, trying the demo, and kickstarting the game. You guys have roughly, as the Kickstarter is telling me, 23 days till it's over, but I am very fruitful that you guys, and hopeful that you guys will hit the $20,000 mark before then. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I would love that. And if we hit the minimum goal, we have a deal with the publisher. And if we hit the minimum goal and we can finish it all out, then
oops.
it will go to all current consoles. Um, and if we're lucky enough to exceed our, to go into our stretch goals, um, we have a translator lined up who will help us get a Spanish localization.
Oh, so you are looking. So not only you're going for multi-platform, but also going for
Multilingual, yeah.
multilingual. Yeah. Which yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty, because again, around the world, everyone can see a thing. But yeah, so I guess that's enough talking about the Kickstarter. Now let's talk about, I'm gonna play the demo live with Ginal. She has time to sit here and watch me play the demo. If you, yeah, if you don't have time, you can check out. It'd be no worries on your end, and I do appreciate you coming on by if you have to leave.
No, I've got time.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, now just to make sure the game works on my computer. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see. It should work. It's interesting. It's probably something with the option select that's not reading it, so I'm gonna give it a quick second.